guys, have you heard of this new game that just came out called Baby Steps? Yeah, it just came out.
Yes.
You've seen the memes and how trolly it is. So I just for some context, I've been playing this the last couple days. I tried the PlayStation Plus one hour trial, and I was in the middle of a puzzle in the game, and I couldn't put it down, so I bought the game. 10 hours later, this happens. I sent you guys a link. Okay, so you're in a desert area. I'm climbing the bluffs in a desert area, and then this happens. Just wanted to get you guys' reaction to it.
All right, let's see.
This game is so... Honestly, I was not expecting that. I don't know if that happens a lot in the game.
No.
Yeah, that was a genuine fake out.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So like this game is obviously has some troll energy to it. And you're in a desert area. There's a bunch of cactuses everywhere. Sarah was sitting next to me watching me like right before the stream today, and the podcast today, and I was like, all right, I'm making my way up. And then out of nowhere, one of the cactus just yeets you off, just pushes you once you get to the top of the thing. And it's just hilarious. Like every time you fall in that game, you're just like a flounder. You just flounder, you just flop down, slide down until he can like just shuffle his way up and stuff. Great game.
Seth, what's the name of the Digimon that the like cowgirl has?
Togemon.
Yeah, cactus with the big boxing gloves. All right.
That's exactly
same energy.
And also on brand, there's a new Digimon game. I know this is an indie podcast, but I get real excited about stuff like that. So.
I mean,
yeah.
Digimon's the indie version of Pokemon,
Yeah,
essentially.
that's true.
Right?
That's true.
It lost the war to both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. So
Yeah, it did.
So actually, just for some, Star was playing that today and the last couple days.
Really?
They got it, and it's a little bit of like Persona / like Metaphor / Pokemon energy, like mixed together with Digimon. Obviously, I was like, okay, so
the important question.
Yeah.
Do you spend your social link free time with the kids, or do you get to go hang out at the cafe with Where Garurumon?
A little bit of both, I think. I don't know about there's actual social links. I was kind of half watching, but yeah, it has that same energies for sure. So,
yeah. All the story games have had that like, Persona at home with Digimon.
Yeah,
like so.
Yes.
This is more of that, but man, I watched the trailer the other day, and I've been like holding off because I have other games I need to play, and it's not indie, of course. But dang, that game looks so good! Like it is a stunning looking game compared to the other iterations.
yeah.
right?
And even compared to Pokemon, like the production value is like really high for it. It's really nice.
It is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of video games and indie games, this is IndieQuest, a celebration of the indie and obscure. The voices you're hearing in your headphones or on YouTube, wherever you're listening. I'm Josh, and I'm joined by one of my co-hosts today, Steve. How are you?
Doing all right. I will say that right after our Polymedia charity event, so thank you everybody that came out to that, by the way. Right after that, I developed a simultaneous double ear infection. Actually, technically, 2 middle ear and 1 outer ear. So 3 ear infections across 2 ears. And that has since cleared up. The power of antibiotics. Thank you so much. But the lingering effect of that is I still have like fluid in both ears. So it sounds like I'm underwater. So if I talk way louder than I otherwise should be, it's because I'm hearing myself at like half volume.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use earbuds a lot, like throughout your day?
Yes.
I've heard, and I've gotten. I used to get ear infections all the time when I was a kid, but then
same.
haven't gotten them at all, as an adult until I got the old Pixel Buds, and I'm using them like anybody would, like when you're listening to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said, "Do you use earbuds?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And well, that can actually lead to, ear infections. So
I didn't intuitively think that, but I did. All the earbuds, including the ones that I'm wearing right now, I gave them all a good soapy scrub down.
Yeah.
Let's get all the crud off them.
Mm-hmm.
Whose voice am I hearing, by the way? Who's that third guy?
Oh, that's the captain himself, Captain Drachma. What's up?
doing better than Steve. I'm ear infectionless.
Brag.
Yeah, it's spooky season around here, and I know we've all been playing some spooky games, so I'm excited to chat about the ones we've been playing potentially with you two today and in the future, of course.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I figured we could kick this off before we get into the quest log today. We have a couple of emails, campfire chats. I do want to mention we have received, if you have sent us a OST recommendation, we do have them. I have a little doc that I'm saving them all in, so we can do that at some point. So don't worry. We saw your email. If you were like, what happened to those emails? They're there. So trust me. We'll do an episode about that eventually. But we got a couple of campfire chats. I guess I can read the first one here from Zach. He says, "Hey guys, super stoked for the Spooktacular. That's always one of my favorite episodes of the year. Just had a horror game suggestion if any of you haven't picked it up. I noticed I hadn't heard mention of any games by Puppet Combo on the show yet. They do the whole PS1 vibe, but dated to an extreme. My favorite one so far is Stay Out of the House. It's a survival first-person horror set in a Chainsaw Massacre-style house. I consider myself pretty desensitized to horror, and that one got me more than a couple times. But anyway, love the show. Keep doing what you are doing." Thanks for the email.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've never played one of these Puppet Combo games, but I've heard good things. And Puppet Combo is one of these developers. I don't know if it's a single person or a small group of people, but they just churn them out. Like, they just keep putting out new stuff on the regular. So clearly they're doing well enough for them, which is cool to see. And yeah, the more indie horror we get, the better, I think. It's a lot of fun.
And I will probably never play those games, unfortunately, because if you are desensitized to horror, and I'm a little scaredy cat, man, if they get you, man, they would really, really get me, I imagine. So generally, I just stick away from more of like the fun-loving horror type experiences rather than the make me cry type. So, yeah. But again, thank you for the suggestion. And I'll read the next one that we have here.
Okay.
It starts, "Hey boys, Lil Yeezus here. I noticed that a few games haven't made it on the main quest. If you like Hades but want to be a cult leader, then you guys should try Cult of the Lamb. A new DLC is out in 2026 and I'm so excited. It took me 25-ish hours to beat, but I did everything the game had to offer. If you're looking for Vampire Survivor in 3D, then you guys should try out Megabonk. It's made by a solo developer and has over 100 achievements on Steam. I'm 16 hours in and have 64 of them. There are over 80 items and over 20 playable characters. One more thing for the Campfire OST episodes. What OST songs would you put on a playlist to wake up to and drink some coffee? Thank you so much for the game recommendations and the effort you guys put into the podcast. My favorite episodes are the OST listen parties, which I think are also some of our favorites."
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Thank you so much. I like, well, first of all, I'll to comment on those two games up top. Cult of the Lamb for me is just one of those like forever kind of mid-priority backlog games. I didn't play it when it came out, and so I'm always like, I'd like to get around to that, but there's just always been like a stack of stuff that feels slightly more urgent to check out, but I feel like it's always there for me waiting for when the time comes. So I will definitely get around to it at some point. I would be very surprised if Cult of the Lamb never shows up on the quest log.
Yeah.
What about, have either of you guys played it?
I have not, but that's also been a huge backlog game for me. Honestly, from the year it came out, I felt so bad about not playing it because it's got a lot of the stuff, I suppose, that I enjoy in games. I think that I had even gotten asked if I was going to play it by a few people when it came out, and I was like, yeah, I plan on it, and then just, one thing leads to another, and you never get around to it. So, unfortunate.
Yeah, I saw a good portion of the game be played through by my partner. They played through it, and seemed really cool. It's like dungeon crawling with like management sim elements, in a roguelike. If you each run you get a little bit more for your civilization and stuff. It's pretty cool. So, I'll comment on this second game here, Megabonk. I played a couple of runs on that so far. It's what you expect. It's very Vampire Survivors, but it's the thing that they do that's pretty cool is it's third person, so there's a lot more traversal So you can basically have a guy that you can upgrade your double jump to jump as many times as you can upgrade it. So you can basically have a guy that has 7 or 8 double jumps. So you're flying through the stage, and then there's just bullets raining down off of you onto all the enemies, and you just have raise chaos, and it's a lot of fun. It does remind me of that. It's very much that Bullet Heaven style. I haven't put enough time in to give it like a huge review or anything, but it's cool. I think that the humor in it is very corny. It really has Guacamelee humor in 2025, basically. Like, dead, okay. Stuff like that, spelling stuff incorrectly just to be random, things like that. Mega Chad is in there and stuff like that. It's all that corny meme humor. That's what they're going for, sure. Even the title, Megabonk, you can think, okay, it's a little memey too. But the gameplay itself is a lot of fun, and it's very short runs. They're 10 minutes apiece, so I really like that. So a little 10-minute, 15-minute chunk. Like you beat the run in 10 minutes, and then you have to beat the boss, so it can last up to 15 to 20, but, might as well just say 10 minutes, and, just a little bite-sized game to kind of do in-between stuff. So pretty cool.
That's awesome. I also love that one of the staples of... Did we ever land on a term for Vampire Survivor likes? Are they bullet heaven?
I always say that.
Did that stick?
Yeah, I think that stuck, right?
Okay. So bullet heaven games, one of like the staples of that is huge achievement lists, because they just want you to always be getting little dopamine dings all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, if you guys didn't know, Vampire Survivors on PlayStation is one of the few games that has so many trophies that they had to split it into 2 lists. If you get all the trophies, you have Vampire Survivors and Vampire Survivors Set 2 on your list, because for some internal limitation, there's more trophies than one list can handle on PlayStation Network. So yeah, you'll never stop getting little treats.
Yeah, it's a slot machine that you play, really.
It knows what it is.
If you break it, people know what it is, right? But if you break it down to like, there's a lot of complicated systems and stuff, but really you're just in there shooting things and just having a good time, getting little dings, little explosions, and things happen on the screen, shiny thing, and keep your attention for 15 minutes, right? So yeah. What about your favorite OST song to listen to when you wake up with some coffee, like good chill vibes? Answer that question.
I gotta go, for me, A Short Hike feels like the perfect one for that. It's got that like sunny morning energy to it. It's upbeat, feels fresh, kind of naturey. It's like a big lung full of fresh air for the ears. So Short Hike for sure.
I will say the Stardew Valley OST. It's just really good.
That's a good one.
That's one of those games I haven't played much of, but that soundtrack just always hits so good, just in the background. It's just really soothing, So
I would probably go with something like A Space for the Unbound or Beacon Pines. Like, I'm thinking of games that are just very chill. I mean, every game has some sort of like somber or creepy tunes, right? So you're not going to be able to miss one or two, but start to finish, I think those would be the 2 I would probably throw on to sit and chill in the morning.
Awesome.
Great one.
All right, thanks for emails, both Zach and Lil Yeezus. I saw Lil Yeezus followed us on Blue Sky as well. Appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks for hanging out and enjoying the show, and sharing some awesome little comments that we could read and celebrate indie games. All right. Speaking of celebrating indie games, I was trying to think of a segue. Can you tell that? I was like, I had it percolating, so I had to kind of force a segue. So now let's just call that out. Anyway, we have this great huge list we've been doing for basically 5 years. Did you guys know? Fun fact, next episode is 5 years, the 5-year anniversary of IndieQuest. That's crazy, right? Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Wild times.
Yeah. It went by fast. Also it feels like I've been doing it my whole life at the same time. So, it's somewhere in between. Anyway, what we've been doing for this whole 5 years is building this list called the Quest Log. It's basically a giant curated list of recommendations. If you don't know anything about it, this is your first episode. The main quest is a game that's an easy recommendation. It's an incredible experience. 10 out of 10. Excels beyond its genre, beyond a reasonable doubt. That still doesn't make a lot of sense. I probably should delete that. Anyway, Main Quest is an awesome game. It's a banger. And then side quest is still a recommendation. We don't bring games on here that aren't recommendations, but this one might have a caveat or two, might be a little bit niche, or maybe it's a little rough around the edges. Maybe it's like a 7.5, 8 out of 10, but not quite that 10 out of 10 of the main quest. So, who wants to bring their indie pick first today? Silence. We're all just looking at each other.
All of us on each other. I don't know if either of you guys ever feel like you have like a shorter one that you feel like is a good appetizer or a meatier one.
I do have a shorter one, so I could certainly start us off, but I also don't like to always be the one that's like, I'll go first. So if either of you would like to, but I can also go.
I'll go first if you want me to do that this time. Sure.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see. I wanted to look something up for this one, but this game came out July 31st this year. It's a brand new indie game. Well, semi brand new, a few months old. It's by the studio who brought us Tales of Kenzara Zao last year. They just released a horror game called Dead Take. Have you guys heard much about this one?
I don't think so. It's on my wish list, though. I think probably because you mentioned it at some point. So.
Yeah, I played this one a little while ago. I mean, I didn't play it fresh, but I wanted to shout this one out today because it's really cool. It's so the whole main concept is you're in first person, a survival horror game. You enter this mansion of this director that makes horror movies. And you find inside of his mansion, it's abandoned. There was a party. There's a bunch of like party decorations up in this mansion. So you're kind of like doing the horror game thing, solving puzzles to open up new rooms, explore new areas, find keys, find 3 pieces to a trident that opens up a secret compartment that opens up and gets a key to another room, stuff like that. Lots of very tropey things you see in these type of games. But I think what makes this game interesting is the setting. So you're in a director's house, and as you explore, you find this movie theater in the basement, and you can go in there and you'll pick up like film reels and like little clips on USB drives. I guess not film reels, quote unquote, but you know what I mean. You plug it in, and there's little clips, and you can edit these clips together. And all these clips are FMV from people you may or may not know, like pretty popular actors, like Ben Starr's in there. You got, maybe not actors, but people in the game sphere. We got Alana Pierce is in there, just people that you might have heard of or seen on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. They're in there with FMV cutscenes to unravel this mystery of this director that was all controlling. And did somebody die? Is this, is this ghost? Is there something's off about this mansion? What is it? So you're trying to solve this mystery. So what do you guys think of this? Just by probably seeing some trailers and things.
It, before you started, I guess, explaining it, it is a lot higher production value than I was expecting, I guess, right?
Right.
It reminds me a little bit, I know it's not the same thing, but it reminds me a little bit of the game that John brought when he came, in terms of that production. Yeah. It's probably the FMV probably goes a long way towards it too, but
yeah.
Every screenshot is wildly different. Mm-hmm. It's clearly got a lot going on. And it looks like, based on the little snippets in the trailer, it is like walking around first person, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you wouldn't be, if you didn't watch a trailer and you just look at the screenshots on Steam, you wouldn't be able to tell that. There's a bunch of screenshots that to me almost make it look like
her story
mist or something like that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Like a bunch of like random sharp defined camera angles and stuff. They just like really framed up their pictures well. But yeah, it's got an interesting vibe. It reminds me of it gives a little bit of like Alan Wake 2 energy.
Oh yeah, with the FMB like mixed in with the gameplay, kind of like not sure what's going on. I haven't played it, but I know what the subject matter is for sure. Yeah. I will say there's some really cool and creative. I will spoil like not what the puzzle solution is, but there is you go into like a sound stage. So they have one of the puzzles in this, which I thought was really cool. And there's 3 mannequins in there, and there's a bunch of puzzles around to pose the mannequins in a certain way and move the camera and get that perfect shot that is related to a script that's hanging on the wall. And it's just like a really cool like visual puzzle, and like you can tell whoever made this is like a fan of film, you know. So that was always cool. And I also just like that they take creative ideas like the film clips. So like let's say I have a clip from Ben Starr. He's like giving a monologue, right? And so he's like going off, and then I find another clip of, you know, Alana Pierce, and she's like interviewing somebody. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I can try to go and splice these. And there's a splice machine. You can splice them together, and it creates a whole third new clip. So then the whole thing is you're trying to like combine the different films, that little clips that you find to basically solve the clues to, you know, learn how to get to new areas of the home, and then learn the backstory of this, you know, mysterious and maybe kind of like creepy director, you know. So I just think that going through the it's kind of like a dungeon. The director's home is very just, it has that atmosphere that you want in this. It's so unsettling, and like you feel like you're going to get jump scared any minute. Sometimes you do. There are a couple jump scares in this, nothing too crazy. It's not like Amnesia or something like that. But around every corner, you don't know what you're going to see. And I will say, when you go into a new room, sometimes it's like non-Euclidean. Like it's not really like, this room shouldn't be this big, but you get in there and it's like a big, huge room with a bunch of new interesting things in it. It's a really fascinating game. I really enjoyed just being in that world. The runtime for it is about 3 hours, something like that. It's pretty short. So yeah, pretty doable in a sitting or so.
Is there any kind of combat at all, or is it all just exploration and scares?
There's basically exploration, scares, and then the occasional I have to run away from this thing that's chasing me. So it's one of those. There's no guns. There's no like knives or anything like kill zombies or anything. It's just, you know, creepy things are happening. You think you might die though. You know, it has that feeling. So
are the stakes in like high, I suppose? Like, can you die? Is there, or is it basically you always get out?
I'm just trying to think. I think there might be like a scene or two that has like a fail element, quote unquote, but you just respawn at the beginning of the scene, you know, and do the scene again. So it's not like you're redoing a lot or anything like that.
Right. Makes sense.
Is Sam Lake in this game?
Yes, he is.
All right. I can't tell if this is Sam Lake or not. And I was like, if this is not Sam Lake, it feels like Sam Lake would want to be in this game.
There's a lot of cool, like just random people that you're like, why is he in here? You know what I mean? You can tell that, what's the cert? That's the thing I pulled up. Abubakar Salim. I think they just call him Abu, the guy who does the Surgeon Studios and kind of he's over it. He was also in House of Dragons. He's that guy. He's like the main voice actor for the director, and he does a really good job. He's really creepy. He has a very Hannibal Lecter-ish like pace to the way he speaks. He really thinks about what he wants to say, and he's very, he has that creepy vibe. And then like it feels like he just has a bunch of friends in the industry, and he's like, hey guys, come over to the soundstage. Let's do a couple scenes. We'll put you in the game. We'll make it work. It really feels like that. And I dig it, though. It's like really fun to see the little surprise, you know, people that you don't really expect to see. And then when you do see them, you're like, oh my God, that person. And then sometimes you'll fuse two clips together and it creates another character, like, or has like a scene with another character you're not expecting. So, which it's just really fun to see all the little cameos too, on top of everything else.
For sure. Yeah. I gotta say, it looks legit, and like you said, it's from the developer of Tales of Kenzara Zao.
Mm-hmm.
This game came out 15 months after Tales of Kenzara Zao. So
yeah,
either they were working on them simultaneously, or like in a year somehow they put together a whole other game, including like getting professional footage of a bunch of different people. It just seems like such an impressive turnaround. I don't know. People are just doing more with their lives than me, I guess, is basically what I'm saying.
There is some music in the game, I'll say. Also, just to bring that up, there isn't much of it, though. It's mostly just you're in a creepy area, and then you hear some, like, strings and, like, light music in the background just to give you that uneasy feeling. Nothing too crazy. There is one scene that has like music that's important, maybe one or two scenes that have like specific tracks that are important for that scene. But besides that, there's not much music. It's all just ambient noises and like kind of like, like whoa, 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 whoa in the background, things like that, just creepiness. So I do think the production quality is good. I think they have an eye for making all the scenes look great. I think the graphics are really solid and the FMV is really good. But I was trying to think of many detractors I would have for this one. The only thing I'll say is that if you play a lot of horror games, you've seen a lot of these things done already. There are some creative things that they do, but if you've done one of these, it's very much one of these. It's like I'm exploring a space, solving some semi-easy puzzles, nothing too much friction. You'll be like, well, I'm just searching this room for this specific puzzle piece. I know I need this specific puzzle piece. I just got to find it. That's probably the only friction you're going to have. It's not going to be like, oh, how do I solve this puzzle? No, you're going to figure it out. It's not going to be that hard or challenging. So I would say that's my main detractor for like the gameplay experience. But I do think they do a really good job with the setting. So, all right. I think that's all I have to say for this game. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like the horror genre in general has a tough time branching out from where it's already been.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the new indies that come out are just like, hey, remember that game you played in 1997?
Yeah.
Check out this thing that I did that's just like that game that you remember. Like, there's just not a whole lot. So, I don't know. If you're into the horror genre, you kind of, I feel like, go in expecting some sort of retreading of where you've already been.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions before I place it on the log today?
Just another observation about the studio. I always think it's interesting when a developer switches it up and does a horror game. Like Tales of Gonzalo, very colorful, gated exploration, and then they're like, you know what I want to do now? A psychological horror game. Just completely rug pull everybody.
It's kind of like,
but in a cool way.
It is cool. It's kind of like Panic Arcade. They made Yellow Taxigo's Room, and that was just playing Clover Pit, and that is complete opposite. Like the first game you're a happy-go-lucky wind-up taxi, and the second game you can take a shit on inside your cell and do some slots. So Anyway, this game's great. I really enjoyed this one. I think what this one really boils down to it is if you like the story and the acting and the characters. Like, I think that's going to make or break it for you on this one. I thought it was solid and it was a really entertaining time. I'm not going to say this is going to be an all-timer horror game or anything, but I will say this is a nice, comfy side quest. It's really well done. I think it has a great package. Like, this would be like an upper tier side quest for me. Like, if we were going to tier list, this would be like an A, solid. You should check this out. I just don't think they do anything that's so above and beyond and so masterful that it needs to be like on a main quest, but it's such a solid little package, and I had a really great time with it. And I think anybody who's a fan of like the genre, or if any of the things I talked about sound interesting, you're probably going to have a damn good time with it in an evening with yourself or with your partner, whoever you play horror games with, So solid little game, good, comfy, cozy side quest. Dead Take.
Heck yeah. Spread a little more love to one that I haven't heard anyone else talk about literally at all. So, well, Seth, you tried to go first, but you're going to have to go last. Josh gave me way too many segues off of his for me to not go second. So I, too, am bringing a indie horror game that was also released July 31st, 2025.
Whoa.
Competing release dates here. This is also one that I played a while back, and the two of you actually probably already saw it. I'm going to talk about Heartworm.
Oh, all right.
This is a very cool game. I was originally wanting to bring it. I don't know if Josh just played into your decision at all, too. I feel like the end of July is just a weird time to release a horror game. I feel like you want to release your horror game like September. That's the right time.
Yeah.
So all these like midsummer horrors, not midsummer, the horror, but midsummer season horror games that released, I feel like maybe are going to get dropped or forgotten in favor of whoever timed their release dates a little closer to the season. So I feel it's good to bring it forward and let people know what exactly is going on here. For those that have never seen Heartworm, it is honestly, it is very similar to what Seth just said, where it is an indie horror where they said, hey, you remember those games? You remember those games you liked? You want some more of that? Did you already play Resident Evil and Silent Hill, but you'd like to play another one that isn't AAA? Well, I got good news for you. I mean, that I'm not minimizing that right up front. Like in their paragraph on Steam, they say it's a throwback. They say it's an evolution of 90s survival horror, but like it's 90s and 2000s survival horror.
I think when I said that, I was not thinking Heartworm. I wasn't like, oh, Steve just played one of those. I was thinking Crow Country, which you also brought last year. So it's just, there's just a lot of that going on these days. But, people eat it up. So
that's true. I wonder, someone write into the show and let me know what are like, maybe I'm missing them. What are like the really fresh, weird, new horror games that are not a little bit beholden to, I'll call them tropes of the genre. I don't mean to be reductive, but like beholden to the expectations that a horror audience has. Because a horror audience is definitely its own thing, I feel like, contained within, but also separate of like a general gaming audience. So someone that's in for a penny is in for a pound when it comes to horror games, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, in terms of story, I'm not going to give too much away, but I will say you play as a young woman. I think her name is Sam, and you are traveling to this I'll call it a mountainside house. It's, I don't know, maybe it looks like maybe when you're traveling there, it could be a little bit your neck of the woods, Josh, a little PNW, but it's just a kind of forested, out of the way mountainside house, and she's traveling there because she saw rumors on the internet that, and they're kind of vague about it, but like there's a connection between this place and the ability to communicate with the dead in some way, whether that's to see them, be able to speak with them, a connection to the afterlife. It's all very nebulous. It's very unclear. But she, for personal motivations that are not immediately apparent, although you might be able to guess them, and you definitely learn throughout the course of the game, she wants to travel there and see if she can do just that. And she also just kind of has like a journalist adventurer spirit. She's a little bit of like a modern survival horror, Jade from Beyond Good and Evil type energy going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the actual gameplay consist of then? Like I said, it is very classic survival horror. This is right down to the fact that up front, when you start the game, it gives you two choices. The first choice is it asks, do you want tank controls or do you want modern, like camera agnostic controls? And even though it's objectively worse, because of the energy the game was giving off, I had to choose.
I was going to ask. I was like, do you prefer tank, or did you just choose it because it's like, no, this is what they're going for. I'm kind of obliged to do it. That's the reasoning.
Yeah, kind of leaning into the spirit of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
It also plays into the second decision they give you is they position it as like, do you want retro or modern visuals? Which in reality means, do you want it to look like a PS1 game or a PS2 game? And like both of them are very convincing. The game is essentially modeled and sculpted to look like a PS2 game, and then the retro like effect, if you choose retro, applies this very, very well done visual filter that's like a pixel overlay with like really like clever dithering that makes it look exactly like a PlayStation 1 game. Not just to the like, when I think like retro visuals, sometimes I think, is it just like a short hike type of like it put a pixel filter over it and that's what it is, but it's more than that. It's capturing the like
wobbliness,
the not quite some of the wobbliness, but like the, you think of that classic meme of Squall from Final Fantasy VIII's face where it's like all contorted and it's like 12 pixels. It's like it's capturing that in a good way, in a way that does remind you of a PlayStation 1 game.
And it does very interesting things with its shading, too, I will say. That it's like, when we were playing PlayStation games back in the day, it was what we had, so we didn't really think much of it. But by today's standards, to just have like this like super dark area of the screen that you can't really see, it felt like maybe they were just like, well, we don't really got a whole lot of time for that, and they just blotched it out back in the day. And this game really captures that. Like, I don't really know what that is supposed to be over there, but it's something, right?
Yes, exactly. And sometimes the camera zooms out enough to where your character is just like a mess of wiggly pixels, basically. Like, you can't even really see any defined features anymore. But that is exactly how it would have been on a PS1 as well. So they're capturing that low res energy, which I really appreciated. So kudos to the programmer, the technical artist that worked on that filter. It was done really well. And then again, calling back to those late 90s, early 2000s horror games, it is shot as if it was pre-rendered backgrounds. So it's a lot of very sharp, very striking camera angles. This is one of the areas that I think the game does the most like evolution of those classic games, like they pitch in their description, because it has all the sort of like the essentials, I guess you'd say, that you would expect. It has like big, large, like bird's eye view overhead shots. It has like really low angled shots that make the rooms appear bigger than they are, and kind of like almost like funhouse mirror the space and just make the space eerier than it would otherwise be. Very convincing. But the impressive technical trick is that it is not, well, one, it's not always static. So sometimes it will do that, but then like the camera as you're running down a hallway will kind of like corkscrew and turn in and follow the character in a way that is like really unique and adds a lot of just like mood to the scene. But then the other half of it is that the game is in fact not pre-rendered, because at any point you can whip out your camera, which is the combat in this game, and look around in like buttery smooth 60F first person. So they just like modeled and captured these angles so perfectly that you're convinced, oh, this looks like a pre-rendered scene. And then boom, you can look around and see all the details that would have otherwise been obscured or hidden or just not there in like a, Resident Evil 2 or something like that. So you almost get like it's a good feeling, but you get almost like a whiplash where you feel like I shouldn't be able to see all this. Like I'm looking where I shouldn't, It's like you feel like you camera hacked Silent Hill or something like that, and you're like, oh, look at me cheating my way into it. But the camera is the combat, like I mentioned. So there's not a ton of enemy encounters. It kind of builds over the course of the game, but you'll come across these enemies. Most of them are kind of like staticky, and you defeat them by taking photos of them. And so you'll have to center them up in the viewfinder. You get the little like red dot and then take a picture. The picture will usually like stun them a little bit. And then you have to hit them 3, 4, 5 times before they'll ultimately go down. So in that way, they have already hearkened to Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Now they are pulling in some Fatal Frame on top of that as well. So they're hitting all the classics. All right. Which we appreciate. And then, because of the nature of the genre, you will, of course, be exploring, solving little puzzles, collect 3 pieces of a trident and put the trident into the into the stick. I will say that for me, now I've played a lot of survival horror games, so maybe this is just a personal thing. I felt like the puzzles on this one really erred on the easy side. Most of them don't amount to too much more than like find the thing and bring it to the place, find the crest and put it in the crest-shaped hole type of deal. There's 1 or 2 where you have to do some creative, like observing of an item or combining a couple things or like doing things in the right order, but it was generally pretty straightforward. And navigation was also usually pretty easy to figure out. There are some big environments, and like any good Silent Hill or Resident Evil game, half the doors are locked, so there's a little bit of like learning how to navigate them, but they loop around on each other pretty intuitively, and generally I didn't get lost too much. Sometimes the exact opposite, where the game was so closely adhering to the references that it was going for. In one case, the Resident Evil 2 police station, that I literally knew where a save room was going to be because I knew that they were essentially recreating the Resident Evil 2 police station. I was like, I bet when I come out this door, I'm going to go down a right angle staircase, and then under that staircase is going to be another door that leads me to a save room, and 100% I was correct. So it's they know what they're doing, and anyone who's playing it, who's played those other games, will know what they're doing too. I said there's not a lot of combat. I'm realizing now that that's actually more about how I played. I will say this is a survival horror sense in terms of its combat, in all the positive and negative ways that you kind of associate with survival horror games. The combat is pretty predictable. Like there's a handful of enemy types, but kind of once you learn their attack patterns and like how much space you need and where you have a window to attack and when you don't, you can handle most enemies the same way every time. So you're really not in much of a threat. Mm-hmm. And then, they're trying to do some resource management thing here, which means that you should avoid some enemy encounters. Like there's less film, which is the ammunition. There's less film in the game than there are there's more enemies than there's film, basically, so that you will run out of ammo if you try to fight everything, so you need to pick and choose your battles. But the enemies are so slow that I avoided like 90% of the enemies in this game. Like there was areas that had 3 or 4 enemies in them that I would just consistently run through that area back and forth, weaving around the enemies, because I was like, I don't think they could catch me if they tried. Like I've just got this on lock. So
is there any incentive at all to defeating enemies? Do they drop anything, or is it just...
The only incentive is that they won't be there the next time you come through that area. There are some enemies later in the game that are like a little faster and a little more threatening. If you think of like the sort of like base level zombie equivalent from a Resident Evil, the slow lumbering enemies, those are really the ones that I avoided almost all of, because they just basically can never catch you. There are some faster or more aggressive enemies. I was like, I'm going to be annoyed having to come back through here and you still chasing me. And so, especially if I don't know what corner you're hiding in and the camera angle is bad, I just want to make sure that you're down for the count. So, but you never need to, outside of a handful of boss fights, you never need to engage in the combat really at all. So I will say, kind of on the topic of that, like the Resident Evil police station reference, this game has a pretty good mix, I feel like, of environments. There's the stuff like that is like a genuine straight up homage to another game. Like this is a thing essentially pulled from a Silent Hill or Resident Evil game. There are some environments that are sort of more par for the course for a survival horror game, where you're like, yes, this is a survival horror setting. I am familiar with this, even if it's not directly referencing something. And then there's a couple that are like genuinely, I felt, interesting artistic choices. Like one of the areas you spend a good amount of time in is outdoor national park in the middle of the day. It's not even nighttime. It's not even spooky trees. It's like sun-dappled, sun-kissed leaves with all the shadows and like,
nice.
Wow.
It's bright sunlight, but they still managed to make it like kind of spooky and kind of scary. So kudos to them for capturing the tone.
They didn't even throw any fog in there?
No fog.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very Midsummer in that way,
what?
right? Like where it's like super bright and colorful, but like it's scary at the same time. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it was a really fun area to explore. That was probably my favorite area of the game, honestly. Maybe because that was like the freshest feeling part of the game. I was like, yeah, give me some more of this. It's also a very large area with a lot of kind of like area spanning puzzles, but not in a way that gets obnoxious. So, I could see it being the type of game. There are a lot of times environments where you need to sort of like gather the 5 MacGuffins and then combine them together to leave the area or proceed. And if you'll very naturally kind of follow like a progression that brings you from one to the next. But if you happen to like overlook one or got stressed about combat and missed one, it would be kind of a pain to like have to backtrack all the way back to that area to get it and go back. But they're generally pretty good about guiding you in the right place and pointing your attention to where you need to look. I never really had too much frustration with it. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the highlights. Again, if folks look this game up, it looks very much like a PS1 or PS2 game. You will be familiar with the art style, even though you've never seen it before, because It is a game that is doing a great job calling back to where its ideas originated. But what questions do you guys have?
Does it sound like that too? Does it have that like the soundtrack and the music and the effects? Does it sound crunchy and PS1 or 2 era, all that? I'm just curious about that.
Very much so. Yeah, it has some great like moody strings as you're exploring the environments. Of course, there's like a classic relaxing kind of piano save room when you go in to save your game. They know what you want, and yeah, in general, it sounds, even like the sounds of like the camera and stuff are very crunchy and feel kind of retro. So it's well done. Maybe not a soundtrack. I would maybe not listen to the soundtrack outside of the game. But there's a couple tracks in there that I would enjoy. That's just true of all survival horror games, though. I feel like they have complementary soundtracks, but usually not ones that I like. I'm thinking, dude, windows down in my car. Let's blare this one.
Let's blare the Amnesia the Machine for Pigs soundtrack. It sounds great. Yeah.
Hey, man. Rob loved that soundtrack, so maybe I should be blaring. Maybe
that's true. He did love
attention.
it. That's true. Maybe that's why it popped into my head. Anyway.
Yeah, I only think of like title tracks and save rooms in survival horror games when I think of music, because the rest is just like the slow grinding of gears and machine noises designed to scare me. Right? It's one note stretched out over 45 seconds.
Or the music is designed in such a way to like just be spooky music, which I just do not gravitate towards spooky music when I'm like, I'm just chilling in the car heading to work. Like, what should I listen to? Like, eerie piano. Like, that's just never on the top of the list. So
so true. I'm a very melody driven person in general with my music. So survival horror, like, they can't have a melody because then I'd be tapping my toes while I play. And then they're like, hey, stop having fun. You're supposed to be scared, mister. Yep. Hey. A couple like last minute notes that don't really fit anywhere else in the overview. I will say my impression was that it's easy. So I think for veterans of survival horror games, you will find it to be pretty easy to get through for a couple reasons. One, like I mentioned, pretty much all the enemies can be avoided. And two, the combat doesn't deal that much damage, and they're pretty generous with healing items. You do have like a storage box. You don't have limited inventory as you do in these games. Like you start with like 8 slots. And I kept like depositing my first aid kits, my full heals, back into the box to be like, I'll take that out when I feel like things are getting serious. And at the end of the game I finished and I had used like 1 or 2 heals, and my like item storage box had like 9 first aid kits in it. I was like running out of space in the storage box because I had so much first aid. So it's not too difficult outside of 1 or 2 kind of janky parts, but not too bad. I do also feel like there are parts that are uneven. In particular, I feel like the boss fights are less intriguing than the rest of the game. That's probably true in a lot of survival horror games, but there's one boss fight in particular that mechanically was just kind of like, it kind of had like a Mario boss fight energy, where it was like, basically watch it do its attack pattern 3 times and then hit it on the big giant red bump that has an X bandage on it every time that it exposes itself. Just not much more to it than that. And I just felt like it was kind of corny relative to the rest of the game. But I would say this seems like, I think I said the words Heartworm 15 minutes ago, and the people that aren't driving, or some of the naughty people that are driving, pulled up their phone and they Googled Heartworm game, or they pulled up Steam and they looked up Heartworm, and then they stopped listening to me from that point on because they already knew whether or not they were in for this game. Like, you will see one screenshot, you will watch 20 seconds of the trailer, and you will know immediately whether or not this is your thing. I do want to like emphasize that in all of its references, it is very clearly coming from a place of like genuine love and enthusiasm for these games. The developer Vincent Adenolfi is like basically every part of the credits. It was kind of funny. As you're watching the credits, every single title that came up, like game direction, story writer, technical artist, 3D artist, it was just Vincent every time, with like 1 or 2 exceptions. And so like truly a jack of all trades wearing every hat. And this is like a genuinely long, impressive, well considered game for what is maybe not a one-man project, but a very small team, a small project. So the passion comes through, the love comes through, and if you're craving a horror game like this, I think you'll probably get a lot out of it. Again, maybe we're being too punitive for survival horror in general, but like the flip side of that coin is if you're not in for survival horror, or you did not grow up on these old games, you will maybe not get that much out of it. It is kind of hanging its hat on you having a certain amount of nostalgia for certain series, almost as table stakes. So I labored on this one for a while, but I think ultimately I'm going to side quest this one. To me, like my personal preference, I would lean more towards main quest, but like putting on the people reading the quest log hat for a second, I feel like, we talk about the side quest often as either there's one or two caveats, or it's for like people that are into a specific genre. This is exactly that type of game. If you are into survival horror, you will get a lot out of Heartworm. You'll have a great time. I had a great time. But if you don't get a lot out of survival horror, I don't think you'll get that much out of this game. And because it's not also doing anything like fresh or new or exciting, I feel like that's what makes it more of a side quest than a main quest. But all the same, very cool game. I had a great time streaming it. Again, huge shout outs to Vincent Adinolfi. He kicked ass on this one.
Seems like somebody to follow to see what their next thing is.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be more an original thing that's not like, I mean, this is original obviously, but maybe he'll do his own thing. Like, oh, let's try this out, and there'll be something crazy and out there. It's somebody to keep your eye on for sure.
Yeah, totally. It's actually, I should have mentioned up top, but this game, it originally kind of released, I don't know if it was like a demo or like a version of it, released it. Did you guys ever hear about the haunted PS1 demo disc?
Yeah. They still do it, I think. I think they do it every year still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, this was on the haunted PS1 demo disc, and that year it was like a lot of people were like, oh damn, this one is like the kind of the star of the show. And then that obviously went on to be a full game. So been in the culture for a long time and knows kind of how to get the word out to survival horror people. So it's cool to see it come to like a full cohesive project. It was fun to follow the story. Really cool game. I'd love to see, like you said, Josh, what Vincent does next, or a sequel to this, or whatever they want to do. I will be there for it for sure. So yeah, that's Heartworm.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Well, I suppose that leaves me. And I brought a game that I think is quite different from the games that you guys brought. It's actually very similar to a game that I did not bring last year, but had considered bringing. And I don't know that it's very similar to anything on the quest log so far, which is kind of cool. So, I am bringing a little game called Dreamcore. Have you guys heard of Dreamcore?
I've heard of it.
No, but I'm excited to hear about this. This has a vibe. I'll let you go into it. It has a vibe.
Yes. So last year I played a game, and I think it was the first time that I had played one of these types of games, and that was called Pools. And anyone out there that has not played Pools or Dreamcore, these games are liminal space psychological horror games, right? So, and I suppose that's my genre soup for this one. It is very much like a walking sim where you're going through hallways, and like the big horror element, I suppose, to these games is that they are kind of anxiety inducing. They're more horror leaning to your brain and like the player and what you're getting out of it than, hey, we're going to scare the crap out of you with things that pop around the corner. Like there's none of that kind of stuff in this game. So if you are more sensitive, I suppose, to like true horror games that are trying to scare the crap out of you, this type of experiences would be better for that type of person. So Before we get into all that, it released January 23rd of this year. The developer is Montreluz, and it's on everything. PC, PS5, Switch, and the new Xboxes. So you guys are looking at screenshots. This is very much a Backrooms style game.
Yeah.
Right? So years ago, Backrooms was a big internet thing, right? Where people got excited about the idea that there could be a place or a building, I suppose, where all you do is walk through endless hallways and have no idea where you're going. And now, since then, several years later, many games have like spawned off of that idea. Pools being one of them, and now Dreamcore. And that's kind of what it looks like, right? It looks very much like a Portal style world or something like that. It's late PS3, early PS4 type era. That's kind of what the graphical style is going for. It's first person, so there's nothing obstructing the screen. There's no health bar, nothing like that. You're just walking and or lightly jogging if you press a certain button. But the interesting thing about... Yep, go ahead, Josh, sorry.
No problem. I was going to ask, does the game itself have this VHS fuzzy filter on it, or is it just the trailers?
Yes, I was just going to mention that, actually. So that's the big difference between this game and some of its contemporaries, I suppose, is that VHS filter. They added that to it to make it a little bit more, it's like you have a video, like a 90s video cam, and you're in there and you're doing like the Blair Witch thing or something, right? You're going through this building and you're recording the whole thing. You can turn it off. I have played it both ways, and both ways for me look cool. I guess the only detraction I have for the VHS filter is that I feel like when you have it on, it kind of dulls everything and blurs out some of the nice looking environments that you're in, right? The shininess, which is what they're going for. And they literally tell you when you turn that slider, when you slide it off in the options, it gives you a warning. This was the way that we intended players to play it. You can shut it off, but just know that this is what we wanted the experience to be. So I always felt bad about shutting it off. Every once in a while I'd shut it off for a couple minutes and then I'd turn it back on just so I had that touch point. But both are good. But yeah, like I said, the only thing that's a little bit of a detraction is I wish that I enjoyed the shininess of some of the stuff that you can see within the game. But the VHS filter, intended way, and also looks good. Music. There is not much music, but when the music does start playing, it is extremely intentional. Every once in a while you'll come into an area, it's quiet. All you can usually hear are your footsteps, or if you're splashing around in water, you just hear the water. But sometimes you get to an area that is significant in some way, and you'll start to hear some music playing over top, right? Honestly, outside of just the music, sound effects are incredibly, incredibly important to this game. And I suppose this is a little bit spoilery, so I guess if you're sensitive to spoilers, then maybe skip ahead 20 seconds or something. But you learn, the game does not teach you that sound is important. You learn that by playing it, because sometimes you'll hear a beeping, right? And that beeping is indicating a place you might need to go. As you turn around and move further away, the beeping gets duller. And then you turn back around, it gets louder again. And the game doesn't, like I said, the game doesn't tell you that. But once you've stumbled upon what's causing the beeping, then you can utilize that knowledge for future parts of that level you're on or other levels that you can do. So very cool. I very much enjoyed that. It made me, I nearly grabbed my headphones because I played this on PS5 and I was just playing with the sound coming out of the TV the old-fashioned way. But I almost got my headphones plugged into my controller because I think that experience would have been really good to like have that strength of audio coming through to kind of tell you where you need to go in those situations. So that will bring us to story. And as you might be able to imagine with one of these types of games, there is not much to say in the way of story. It doesn't tell you anything, really. It just drops you in each of these levels, quote unquote. I would actually go so far as to say that this game has multiple different mini games, or like truly games in itself, in each stage that you can go to, because they are like an hour to 2 hours long, each of them.
Wow.
So, and when you beat each level, I suppose, you get credits every time. So it's almost like Dreamcore is this bigger game that houses smaller games within it. Now, if we were talking like Polykill type stuff and did I beat the game, I truly think that if a person out there played this game and beat one of the levels and then captured the credits, I think that that would be worthy of a beat, because they're different. They're different experiences. They play similar, but they are very specifically created to be different experiences. I think that's what's interesting about this game versus something like Pools, because Pools was very much like, hey, I'm going to drop you into these pools and you're going to walk around not knowing where you're going until you figure out where you're going, and then you're on to the next level. Dreamcore is different. There's more, I suppose, game to that, which we will start to get into right now. The premise of this game is you get dropped in and you have to find a way out, right? That's really all there is, but things happen throughout. Do you guys have any questions before I touch a little bit more on the gameplay itself?
How many levels were there? You said an hour to 2 each?
Yeah, so there are currently 3, but there are slots for 5.
Oh.
So, yes. And a lot of people are a little annoyed based on the reviews I see. There are some people who are a little miffed about how this developer, I suppose, went about releasing this game. It released with only 2 levels. And then very recently, another one was added. So currently, the levels that you can play are Dream Pools, Eternal Suburbia, and Playroom, or Playrooms, I believe. And we will be able to play another game. Basically, like I said, these are like truly different games. Another one will get released this winter, and then another one early next year. So they're kind of like drip feeding them in, which I think is super cool. It's a $12 game. You can buy it on sale right now for like $10 on Steam, and you're getting 5 pools length games within each of these, which I think is very interesting. And like I said, to me, it's a little bit more interesting and fleshed out than Pools was before it. But yeah, people are a little miffed about it. They're like, why wasn't this like early access? Like, why wouldn't you release the entire game so we can play it all from the beginning? To me, the way I've played this is I probably played it a little bit more rushed than would be expected by the developer, because I actually played a different game and wasn't loving it. So I'm like, I need to find something, right? So I stumbled upon Dreamcore, of course. I think that the best way to experience this is to sit down, play through one of the mini games, get your experience with it, get your fill of it, and then wait a few days, a few weeks, and play another one. Because, and this will lead me right into the gameplay, if you've ever played one of these liminal space type games, and especially if you've played one that is like somewhat challenging in kind of the level setups, they are taxing on the old noggin. I mean, it can be kind of tough. I mean, it's not like skill challenging, like, oh, I had to be really quick, like in Celeste or Super Meat Boy or something. It's just, it kind of wears you out after a while, because you're walking in this space and you're constantly thinking, have I seen this before? Have I been here before? Am I doing circles? It's very much that the thing you always see in movies and TV shows where there's a group of people out in the woods and they walk by a tree that has moss on one side, and then they go walking for 15 minutes, then they see that tree again with the moss. It's like, uh-oh, we just did a lap. That is how these games feel. Now, for people who aren't into the liminal space type experience, you might not, I'm not going to say that this is the type of game that's going to get you into them. But to be honest, I never knew that I enjoyed it until I played pools, and then now I play Dreamcore and I also enjoy it. So I would say give it a try if you haven't. And for sure, like with the value of the game and stuff, like you can get into it for relatively cheap cost and not feel too bad if you bounce off them. There's going to be several iterations of this game within the game, and you can play the different ones. But it's very interesting. It's a very interesting game play genre style.
Yeah.
But I've already mentioned pools and kind of what you go through with pools. The difference with Dreamcore, the biggest difference with Dreamcore, I suppose, is that Dreamcore kind of like gives you a goal more so than just go find the finish line and then move on. With every level that I've played so far, so I've played and beaten the first two, and I've played the third one for a while today, and I will say the difficulty ramps up quite a bit for the third one. But for each of these, rather than, walk around until you're not lost anymore, these actually give you objectives. So it's like, hey, this area, you'll see this very early on if you play Dream Pool as the first level. This area is too dark, and you can't go in there without a flashlight. So you got to go find a flashlight. So part one of Dream Pools is wander around until I eventually find a flashlight. The game does not tell you what the flashlight looks like. It does not tell you how to find the flashlight. It does not give you a map. You just have to wander around. And I will say that I wandered around for quite a little while. I thought that maybe the flashlight area was optional. It did not seem to be optional based on where I eventually went. But after wandering, I eventually found the flashlight, and it gives you that little bit of a dopamine hit where it's like, oh, I can go get in those doors that I've passed by, and I'm going to go kind of check out what's in there, and it unlocks like another layer where I think a lot of these liminal space games don't do stuff like that. They don't give you... They don't gamify it any more than you're lost, have fun, like figure it out, right? And I will say the second level does even more of that, where every once in a while you'll get like a cryptic hint, like a picture on a wall, and you'll be like, I don't know what that means at all, but I'll kind of like keep that noted in my head. And then as you go on, you're like, oh, I should have been paying attention to this thing that I was not paying attention to this whole time. But now I understand it makes sense. Like you start to put it together in your head, and that allows you to move forward. And I very much enjoy that about this. Like I said, though, I could absolutely see this type of game frustrating certain people. If you need your video games to be fast paced, if you need your video games to have a clear and stated point, then Dreamcore or games like it may not be for you. But if you're good with just vibing in a space for a while and you're all right with having some anxiety along the way, then this would definitely appeal to that type of person.
Isn't it just fascinating how the human brain works? You get something like a Heartworm that's like, has like dingy, rusty, scary metal chains and fleshy goblets and stuff, and that's scary. And then you look at something like this, and it's literally the opposite. It's the cleanest, most, in some cases, the most normal environment possible. Again, it's like a well-lit city street in suburbia, and it still manages to be uneasy at the same time.
Yeah, the unnerving part. So that's in Eternal Suburbia, I believe, is the one you were probably looking at. The unnerving thing about it, and what you don't realize living in the society we do, is when you're walking these streets or when you're walking from house to house, if there's nothing and no one populating it, it feels so weird. You're just like walking in this space that should have people or should have living things, and there's just nothing. And it's interesting, right? There's like a general hierarchy to how your feelings go as you're playing this type of game, at least how I'm feeling. At first, I'm like, oh, this is really cool, and this is kind of a fun little space, and I enjoy the visuals and stuff. And then you're kind of like, I don't really know exactly if I'm going in the right direction. And then you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've seen that before. I don't know. Have I been here? And then eventually you find the thing that progresses and you're like, and kind of like a wave of that uneasiness kind of gets lifted off for a moment. And then you move on to the next section of that level, and then it starts all over again. It's that repeated process. So, like I said, it's not horror in the truest sense, but it is very much that the psychological. It gets in your head, and the feeling of being lost is kind of, for me, it's one of the most anxiety-inducing things ever. I think the best analogy I can make is this has happened to all of us, where you're out driving somewhere where you don't know, you're not familiar with, and we're so used to having GPS now. You've always got that GPS, but this has happened to, I think, every single person on the planet that's ever driven with GPS. Signal's lost. Now all of a sudden, you're flying blind. And now you have to use your real, true human senses of direction to figure out where the hell you're going until it comes back, right? And that is Dreamcore in a nutshell. You're just flying blind. We're so used to be able to pull up a menu for a map. Nope. You ain't gonna do it in here. And honestly, could you technically get graphing paper and like attempt to draw your own? Yes, you could sort of do that, but I feel like you would spend way more time doing that than just playing the game and taking mental notes and doing it the old-fashioned way. So, any other questions before I put Dreamcore on the quest log?
No, I'm glad to see this genre's like becoming a thing. I've only ever played the ones that are more backroomsy and less like strict liminal. It's fun. I'm always hyping up Dreams, but Dreams has a lot of backroom style games because they lend themselves well to like low production like cycles. Like, hobbyists can make one because it's relatively clean, simple environments. Repetition is kind of like part of the intended design, so you can copy paste. So I always enjoyed those. It's always fun to pop one or two of those on, and it's cool to see increasingly like bigger budget, weirder liminal games like this come out. I'm just happy it exists.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like that it's like Steve was saying earlier. We're like, okay, we know these tropes, we know what these games are, kind of what to expect. In a game like this, I wouldn't really know what to expect. I feel like it's kind of a unique and just different take on horror that we don't see. And this is a good. This one is actually a good answer to your question earlier, Steve. Like, what's something that's kind of out there and different that you don't normally see, So yeah.
True. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those games where if people are not into the horror genre, but they want to get into the spirit, I would absolutely recommend something like this. You could sit and play it with your young kids and they would have no idea. Like they'd be like, whatever, I'm bored now, I'm going to go back to my tablet or whatever. But it's just a very interesting experience. I think it's one worth experiencing. So with all that, questlog time, I am going to put Dreamcore on the side quest. But I think it is kind of designed from the ground up to be a side quest type experience. It's not going to be for everyone. It's not like super real, true horror. It's just something to kind of go and poke around with and experience. And you can go in for, 15, 20 minutes at a time if you don't want to do like a full hour to 2 hour session and go through the whole thing and just kind of move around in this space and be with your thoughts and then think about, what if I was in a situation like this, like real and truly, how would I feel? Honestly, I think that this game, and I don't think that this actually has support, but this is the type of game, and there could be others like this that actually do support this, but VR would be awesome with this experience. Just moving around in the world and really immersing yourself and making you feel like you're walking these hallways rather than holding a controller and being on your couch. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
That might honestly be scarier to me than like a genuine survival horror game doing it in VR, because these games, they're like preying on the anxiety that like
yes,
they're like you said, getting lost out with no GPS or like even just getting like lost as a little kid, getting lost in like a mall, separated from your parents in a department store for a little bit. It calls on this like tangible, very human anxiety. I don't know if I can handle that in VR. That's too up close and personal.
Especially if you immerse yourself in the audio element and
Yeah.
you really just block out everything in your background of your real world. It's a tense experience. It's interesting. So, but yeah, that's Dreamcore on SideQuest.
Beautiful.
First triple side quest in a while, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna get fan mail. We'll call it. IndieQuest hates horror games confirmed. 3 side quests.
I mean, sometimes it happens, you know.
It's the nature of the thing.
But they're all recommendations. Like, they're all awesome. I want to play the games you guys brought today. But just to tell everybody the games again. It's Dead Take, and then we had Heartworm, and what was Seth's? I always forget Seth's. Dreamcore.
Dreamcore.
Yeah. So all 3 side quests today going on our quest log. Hey, we got to get the numbers on the side quest up somehow. So if we all 3 end up bringing one, we do, you know. But
yes, that's right.
There are many side quest games that I personally would call main quest for myself. Many, many of them. So, yeah. All right, well, spooky season begins. Next episode's going to be Spooktacular, but Steve will not be here next episode, correct? You're going to be on your trip?
True.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll be long gone. I'll be out of the country. So what are you guys going to do without me? You got any special plans while I'm away?
Maybe. I mean, no, if you want, we get to say who's going to be on the show.
It's up to I'm not going to be here. I don't mind if you say it or not.
Okay.
Shout them. Shout them out, Josh.
Okay, we're going to have Michelle on from Point and Drink Adventure. Yeah. So that should be a good time. Bringing horror games, very spooky themed in general next episode. And then it's our 5-year. So we have some plans and some things that we're going to be doing in the near future to kind of celebrate our 5-year. So should be a good time. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. You can find the show, IndieQuest Pod, on Blue Sky. Almost said Twitter. I almost did it, Steve. And then you can also send us emails, IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. You can also send us a text. There's a little button in the description there. If you click that, it'll say, it says reserve number. Keep the number in the front, and then you send whatever it is. It'll come to our inbox, and we'll read it on the show. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Blue Sky and Twitch, both of them as Blinkoom. If you were already hanging out on the Twitch channel, you would have seen all of Heartworm. So the indies happen over there too, not just crusty retro and janky trophy hunting. We do the indies too. So what about you, Seth?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Blue Sky and, of course, in the Polymedia Discord. Best place on the internet. And if you want to get in that Discord, head over to Patreon. Search up Polymedia. Jump into the tier that gets you in the Discord. Josh, where can they find you?
You can find me at Josh Leslie on Blue Sky. Make sure I don't stumble on my own name because there's a history of people stumbling on it. Anyway, you can also find me on my other podcast, The Monthly Mishap. It's all about movies and entertainment. We recently did one about the Terrifier trilogy and some Korean horror movies. It was a lot of fun. Good show. Have a good time with it. All right. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. We are part of the Polymedia Network. We just did our charity stream. It was successful. We raised the money. It was a really good time. It's a really fun community to be a part of. If you want to become a part of the community, you can go to the Patreon, do all the things Seth said, and you can also go to polymedianetwork.com to see all the information and see what our other podcasts we have on the network too. So check that out. That was a very long plug, probably, but hey, it is what it is. Steve, why don't you close us out today? Since you're gonna be gone next time, I'm gonna miss you.
I'm sorry. All right, folks. Thanks for getting down with round 1 of spooky season. One of my favorite times of year. This is one of the few times a year that I go big for. I lean all in on it. So hopefully you look out your window and it's a nice, dark, stormy, overcast night. A little cold rain and the wind blowing through the leaves in the trees. But next to you, you have a nice piping hot chai latte or pumpkin mocha. Take a sip of that bad boy, turn those lights down low, and get scared.